My original plan to review the 5 cars in the Christmas update for GT7 was going to have me feature the Bugatti second. It's the car I was looking forward to the most. Of course I had to do the Corvette first, but then I thought, you know what, I feel like more players are probably interested to talk about the Alfa Romeo, and then we're going to do the Bugatti tomorrow instead, so not too much longer to wait if the Chiron is the car for you. For now though, we're talking about the Alfa Giulia GTAm. Now for those who don't know, and many of you do, I do bring some real-world experience to the table when it comes to talking about fast Giulias, because even though I have not driven a GTAm, I have driven and reviewed here on the channel the Quadrifoglio, which itself is a phenomenal car, like legitimately one of the standouts of all the cars I've ever reviewed, and possibly even the best handling car I have ever driven, which is one hell of a high bar when you take a look at some of the cars that I've owned and driven, including Evos, M4s, M2s, Porsche 911s. These are incredible cornering machines, and yet this one may well top the list for me. Not just because it's necessarily the quickest, which in many cases it is, but also because of how it feels. The Giulia has so much personality and so much charisma in real life that the best way I could say of describing it, if you haven't driven one, is imagine if you took a BMW M2 and a Maserati Quattroporte and blended them together. To me that sounds like just about a perfect car, and the Giulia Quadrifoglio at least feels like that. Now I can't say how the GTAm compares because, as I said, I haven't driven one, but I would imagine it brings those things to the table and then turns it up to 11. That's kind of the point. This is the more hardcore version. With that in mind, it feels to me like they may have not fully represented just how much of a cornering missile this thing would be in real life. Because if the Quadrifoglio was already that good, this should be even better. Not to say it's bad. This is fantastic, for sure, but as I mentioned in my review for the update a couple of days ago, it feels just a tad top-heavy compared to real-world experiences, and it doesn't necessarily feel quite as characterful as the real car. Now that's not to say it's bad. This thing legitimately does feel like a touring car for the road, and one of the ways that I would describe the Quadrifoglio is that it is the closest thing I've driven to a DTM car on the street in terms of how it makes you feel. It really does have that kind of insane cornering ability. This is great, but it doesn't quite feel that insane. With that in mind though, it's still fantastic. It's a little bit more expensive than I would have thought, 220,000 credits. But, you know, in Gran Turismo 7 you can earn that in no time. The point level is actually quite reasonable at 579, just under 580. So you can do quite a bit with that. I mean, even at the 600 point level, you could maybe drop the weight a little bit, give it some better tyres, better brakes, maybe drop it, you know, put some camber there, stiffen things up to make it that much sharper. So it could well be a very useful car. Once you start talking about stuff like the 700 point level, well, now you're talking real territory. Because this thing at 700 points, even if you don't touch the power, this could be a weapon. Now speaking to the power, 532 horses is the name of the game, so more than enough for a super saloon. 500 is pretty much perfect. Any super saloon with 400 to 500 horses in my book is about as much as you need in 9 out of 10 situations, especially in real life, but the weight is also very modest. 1,580 kilos barely tips the scales at more than the Corvette, so when you put it into those terms, for a full-size sedan, that's very good. Now, ultimately, when it comes to tuning, you can take this thing from a weapon to a weapon of mass destruction in comparison, because it is kind of like Italy's answer to these much more iconic vehicles from, say, Japan with the GTR, America with the ZR1. It literally is that kind of level of machine. Don't let the 4 doors fool you. The Giulia is a monster when used correctly, and if it's this good stock, imagine what you could do with a tuned one. I have no doubt that people are going to do crazy effective builds on this thing, especially for circuits like the Nürburgring, because one of the best things about the Giulia is that it's an all-rounder. The acceleration is great, the top speed is great, but also the handling and the braking and the grip, even the proportions of the car. One of my favourite things about it is that it reminds me of my own car, the Quattroporte. One of the best things about the Maserati Quattroporte is that it's shaped like a wedge. The back end is taller, the front end is shorter, and the bonnet is very squat because they fit the engine low and far back. It's front mid-engine. The Alfa feels just like that. Driving a car that's wedge-shaped almost like an exaggerated Lancia Stratos kind of shape, it makes the cornering totally different to a more conventional, say, German alternative. It makes the car feel like it's diving into corners with the kind of brutality of a sports car, and that is a really nice advantage to be working with when it comes to driving manners. So for me, I love the fact that this is finally in the game. It's a vehicle which I'll definitely be looking further into when it comes to seeing just how effective it is at different point levels. And yeah, I mean, if my real life experience even compares to how good the GTAm would be, then I've no doubt I'd love those as well. Now, speaking to real life, for those who are interested in my real world car reviews as well as in Gran Turismo, I've actually just a few days ago opened a new channel up called Beards and Cars. And that channel will be exclusively my real world kind of, Top Gear light version of my real world review series. So for those who want to support that, I'm releasing all of the older episodes, and all of the new episodes will be there as well as they come out, and that channel will just be real car reviews. We've already got like over 80 subscribers in a couple of days, which is lovely, so thanks to those of you who have already supported it, and there are already a few videos out, with more coming out every day at 6 o'clock. And last but definitely not least, for those who haven't yet joined my competition for the PS5, it ends a week from today. I might even fly to them in person and give them the PS5, because that is how ridiculous many of these shipping companies are becoming these days. It might be more effective for me to fly to their country myself, as insane as that sounds. So check that one out down below, and of course, stick around for more reviews here on the channel in the coming days, including the Bugatti tomorrow. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.